Okay, so hello everybody. We are today at SOA Academy number 7, and joined with me here is Paul Nicholls from Factory 15. It's great to have you here. Your first time at the Academy, I understand. So to start off, following your presentation, my first question would be, when you first started Factory 15, you probably had some kind of vision in mind, and seeing the stuff that you do today, what can you say about what it was in the beginning that you thought about it's going to be, and how it become Factory 15 that is today?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for everyone for inviting me here. I've had a really great day so far, and yeah, I think it's a really interesting question to kind of how we started, because when we started, we had this kind of goal of having kind of two strands to the company. One kind of strand which used our kind of skills in architecture visualization to kind of create a financially viable company, and the other strand slightly more creatively driven to pursue our ambitions within kind of short films and fiction, and pursue directorial careers, basically, both individually and as a collective, as Factory 15. So, and that kind of ambition has kind of, you know, came to a fruition to a certain extent. We have you know, projects still on both sides of the coin, but we also, I think we're more consciously trying to do is merge those two worlds together a little bit more. So the work we're doing with architects and developers is of a similar kind of aspiration and level in terms of narrative and storytelling through animation that are more, you know, on the surface, creatively driven work kind of aspires to be. So I think we're hoping at the moment that, yeah, when we started, there were very different strands, but we're trying to merge them together more than it ever has been before, basically.
Okay, so and also seeing the workflow, it is quite similar. Mostly, you've shown two projects, one of them being related to ArchViz more, and the other one is TV series concept, if I remember correctly. So the workflows are kind of like following the same lines, even though it seems you do two different things. So how do you grow a team to do such complicated projects, or seemingly complicated projects? Because you do on-camera shooting, CGI, building props. There's a lot of planning involved with the shooting, with location scouting. So what it is you do to become a team that adapts to do such things, and if you can specifically say what are the things that you focus not to waste time on, and what are the things you focus to invest more time on as you grow like that?
I think so. Yeah, a two-part question. I think the kind of the way that we developed those skills essentially stemmed from our kind of education in architectural in architecture. We specialised in architecture and fiction in our kind of in our postgraduate, where we specialised in doing animations and films instead of making like models or traditional architectural drawings. And I think all of the projects were always very ambitious, what we would try and do, both technically and narratively. And I think that is just, that kind of mentality has just progressed, and slowly we've kind of, the quality of those things has kind of got better, but the ambition has always been there since the beginning. And I think it's really hard to pinpoint exactly how that kind of happens on a project basis, but it's sort of like not being afraid to kind of do things you don't know how to do, and you most of the time you will figure out how to do it. Like my presentation today, like you mentioned, showed two very different projects: a film project from a kind of TV and a TV project, and an architectural film, to showcase that the workflow is exactly the same, and no matter what the kind of content, and the ambition is the same. And the two shots that I went into detail on within the presentation were really ambitious shots that we had no idea how to do before we actually did them. So it's not like we have that knowledge before we do these projects. You learn on the project, and the trick, if that's what you're looking for, is to not be afraid of entering something or committing to something that you don't know how to do, either technically or creatively, because you will figure it out with the help of the internet and the help of good people around you. You'll figure it out, basically.
Okay. Can you tell us about the new studio co-working space you recently opened. What was the drive to do that, and what actually can be done in that kind of venue?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that actually. Yeah, so recently, like in the last 2 months, we've moved office. We were in the same office for 5 years. We started 5 years ago in an artist studio in Brixton. So a very small office. 1 or 2 people have joined us for a good old party there. But it was just time to leave. The space had kind of, we more mentally outgrew the space than physically. And we had ambitions to do a few things. When we decided to move, we were like, okay, we want to have a gallery. We want to have more of a connection to the art world, both with ourselves and also as a kind of facilitator for other people's work. So we kind of started that. So we've got a space now at Elephant and Castle, which enables us to showcase our own work, other people's work in a formal gallery. But then also the space allows us to share the space with other people, and we've been inviting other people within the film and television industries and other kind of industries, gaming, design, arts, photography, to kind of share the space with us, because we were quite conscious not to be too insular with our workspace and our mentality. And so much of a part of our work is about collaboration with other people, whether it's casting agencies, producers, other VFX studios. So I think that collaborative nature is now just more formally presented in the space that we work in. But it also allows us to kind of do other things, like we've got a dedicated VR room, for example, that we can constantly be doing R&D and testing in that new kind of form and media, both in terms of visualization as well as in terms of like more experimental kind of art or interactive projects that we might want to explore. So it enables us to do so much more than we were able to do in our other space. So we're quite excited about it.
Cool. So you mentioned the VR room, and thinking about the main title of this event, Reshaping ArchViz. What do you think that is something you personally would like to explore right now that's going to be the standard, or you think is going to be the standard, like in a period of 2 to 5 years from now, that everybody should try and focus on it right now?
In terms of technologically, I think I almost did a presentation about kind of VR and about kind of interactive, mediums that we've done with you with the Vineyard, and also with the other VR stuff that we're exploring. And I think what I wanted to do for this presentation was almost go back to basics. As part of something that I do when I teach in the MADI here in Venice, actually, and through other courses and presentations that we do to universities, is going back to basics, teaching about animation, storytelling, and filming. And I think what I wanted to do in the presentation was to highlight the fact that there should be more of a standard to architectural storytelling through animation and through the way that we make our films. And I think I went through a very technical breakdown of our workflow, which I don't think is necessarily the same as what everyone else does, but it's more, I guess, akin to a traditional film, how that would be made. And I think more people should be doing that, I think, within our industry, to get a real standard of quality in the films that we make in our industry, rather than, I mean, the fly-through is a dying breed now. Obviously, I think it's not that relevant to talk about the fly-through as anymore. But in terms of still the way that we explore films is a very basic way compared to the rest of the entertainment industry. And I think if we could kind of standardize or kind of improve on that to the level that we aspire to be, then I think that's only going to be good for our industry. I think technologically, it's a tougher question, I think, because there's new toys every year, and I think it's really hard to kind of say what will be the standard. I don't think, for me at least, I don't think there'll be a standard like tool or application, or it will just be one kind of single workflow, which then allows you to export images, animations, real-time files, interactive models. I think there will just be, it won't even be a question of whether you're using V-Ray, Corona, Unreal. It will just be about all these applications will allow you to do everything, I feel, in the future. I think you'll just create an asset or a scene or a kind of development for an architect or whatever, and then it's up to you or the client then a conversation about what media gets exported from that, whether it might be stills in a photographic route or whether it's real-time file. So I guess I can see it merging in a sense that it's less of a choice at the beginning of what you could do, and more of a creative discussion with the client during the project's lifetime of what kind of things they want to market their proposal or building, and then having the flexibility technically to choose later whether it's one or the other.
Okay. You mentioned teaching at the Madi here in Venice. Any insight to what teaching provides you when you go back to the studio? Any kind of things you bring back after you taught them that you realize you can do better or you can do differently? How's being a teacher can help within your own work?
Yeah, I think that really goes back to what I was saying earlier about the format of my presentation today. I think when you go and teach storytelling, or to people who have never done that before, you really kind of hone in on yourself at the core things that you need to teach to communicate the process, and then that only reaffirms the way you do it back in the studio. I think there's a tendency within a team, especially a small team, to kind of have a certain workflow and then kind of skip a few steps because you kind of know how to do them, or the process. Like, for example, storyboarding or previs, or certain kinds of scripting or writing the idea down in a certain way. I think when you teach things in a very simple way, I think it reaffirms those values to yourself, so that you keep doing them within your own practice without skipping them. Because it would be very easy to be, we sort of know what's going on. We'll skip to this phase. Where actually those early stages are super important to do, even though you think you've got a clear idea. Just because you do develop things very visually very quickly when you do that medium. So. Yeah, in my presentation, I really wanted to hone in on the storyboarding, pre-visualization, and the preparation for the shoot, design work, all of these things that really inform the final result, which I then revealed at the end. So.
Great. So, and to finalize that, if someone wants to work at Factory 15, what would you say on 3 things he needs to do to capture your attention?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the first thing is ambition. I think you can get portfolios that have really nice images or whatever, but I think the scale of our work, like as you mentioned, can be quite daunting, I think, for some artists. That might be used to be working with smaller scenes or just stills or interiors or whatever it might be from a visualization perspective. Whereas because we deal with such massive scenes that require a lot of planning and a lot of I think that can be quite daunting. So seeing someone who's got a little bit of animation experience, might not have like the most polished rendering skills, but have shown a really great ambition for the kind of work that they want to do, is always a really good checkbox of ours. We've taken on quite a few Italian interns over the years, so I guess being Italian is probably not statistically probably more likely to get a job in the studio. Liking dance music could also help, bit of techno. There's a few of us in the studio that do a bit of that, and everyone else has just got headphones on, listening to their own stuff. But no, I think ambition and drive, and just obviously because we're such a small team, having that kind of social connection with people helps a lot as well. I think being sociable and friendly, always a good quality in people, especially in a small studio environment. So yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much, Paul. And we'll see you in the next interview.